what is grit? There's actually research on grit. There's not much of it. It's fairly new. But grit is an intense desire to achieve some long-term goal and powerful motivation to work toward achieving it. Okay? So a vision of a long-term goal for self and ongoing motivation to do it despite all odds, right? Now, some of you, before you start worrying about whether you have grit or not, let me tell you that it's actually possible to develop grit, and I'm going to teach you one way. Again, this is new research. This is new information. This is not old stuff. We're sort of at the cutting edge of human motivation. And so I'm going to teach you one methodology, and I'll show you how it's worked in my life, getting to where I am now, from kindergarten baby born in the gravy, and show you how you might be able to do that for yourself. Grit is interesting because as they study, for example, children and scores on standardized tests, or likelihood to attend a university after school, or success in careers, or whatever it is that they're studying, they found that grit is a characteristic. It's sort of this intangible. It's a little bit difficult to quantify, but it's a characteristic that functions independent of intelligence or income level or any of the other identifiable character traits that researchers tried to find, which is a fantastic thing, especially if you can develop it. It means that it doesn't matter where you came from or who your parents were or how much trauma you had as a child or anything else. If you can cultivate grit in your life, you can find success. And maybe you would think about someone in your life that you consider successful, or perhaps someone who's a hero of yours. And I want you to think about their life. And this works better if you know a little bit about their life and how they got to become the person who would be worthy of being called a hero. I can essentially guarantee you that in probably every case, whoever this person is did not have an easy life and sort of have success handed to them on a silver platter. I can essentially guarantee you that part of the reason that this person represents heroic effort to you is because this person overcame odds, overcame struggles and challenges and setbacks and things that maybe most of us would look at and go, there's no way I could do that. I don't know how you were able to make it through that. That's part of what makes a person, I think, heroic to us as human beings, is accomplishing things that seem impossible. That one defining characteristic that allows people to be able to do that, again, in my theory I'm presenting to you today, is grit. Think of someone, for example, like Helen Keller, who certainly was probably of above average intelligence, but is also probably one of the grittiest people you could ever meet, if you could. She refused to accept what had been handed to her. Right? And if you don't know much about the life of Helen Keller, I recommend looking into it. Now, I envision that my gritty clients who came into therapy probably had developed this even before showing up. In fact, the very first thing I was thinking last night as I was finishing this, and by last night I mean this morning, was how can I help cultivate grit in my clients? If this is the one characteristic, if this is the one thing that undergirds success in treatment and perhaps in life, then as a therapist, I need to be making sure that this is priority number one for people that I'm working with. And I recommend that you make this priority number one for you. And I want to teach you, as we get into this, the difference between grit and, say, stubbornness, and the difference between grit and the idea that you just have to do everything on your own, right? Pull yourself up by the bootstraps, because that kind of goes violently against the core principles of 12-step, right? Which is the idea of surrender to a power greater than yourself. Grit has nothing to do, in my opinion, with stubbornness or just figuring it out on your own and, manning up or whatever that phrase might be.